You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, a Wichita police officer is in the hospital following a shooting that left one suspect dead. We'll have the latest.
Waking up with thunderstorm activities right in the heart of the 4 states, and we've got a couple hours still to go. We'll take a look at our rain totals and also, too, update you on the lightning tracker from the SKYWATCH Weather Center.
And we find out how some folks across the 4 states celebrated Father's Day. The KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 starts now.
Officer down, officer down. Officer down.
Wichita, Kansas police officer is in critical condition and a suspect is dead after a shootout Saturday night. Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. The shooting happened in the 500 block of West Carlisle shortly after 10 p.m. Officers say they went to a home to do a welfare check of 2 women. A man inside started shooting at them. Officers returned fire, hitting the suspect who died while being treated by EMS. One of the officers was struck multiple times and was rushed to the hospital in critical condition.
Well, we do have the officer that's in the hospital, and it's protocol that he would be placed on administrative leave, but he is in the hospital, incapacitated at the moment. We have 2 other officers who did fire shots, and those 2 officers are going to be placed on administrative leave.
No one else was hurt. The KBI was called in to assist in the case. Police recover a stolen car from Carthage in Baxter Springs. Sunday morning, 2 suspects were taken into custody after Cherokee County Sheriff's deputies found a stolen car hidden in the garage of a Baxter Springs home. Officials say they received information late last week on an unrelated investigation which took them to the Baxter Springs home. 2 people have been arrested. 1 man was killed, another seriously injured when a pickup truck crashed into marchers at a pride parade in Florida. The driver and the victims were all part of a gay men's chorus. Officials believe this was not intentional. Plenty of people packed Miami's Riverview Park Pavilion Saturday, all for the Miami NEOK Pride 2021 celebration. Organizers say they wanted to bring people together as a show of equality, tolerance, and love. The event featured tons of things to check out, including local vendor booths, drag pageants, live music, a DJ, and plenty of activities for the kids. The Empire Market Joplin held its first ever regional Black Expo. The event was meant to highlight underutilized Black-owned businesses that do not necessarily get the heavy exposure that other businesses do. Just happens to coordinate with Juneteenth as well. Event organizers say they hope this event will give more exposure to the 4-state African American business community while bringing everyone closer together.
That I'm hoping that this is a community binder and that this lets people know that there may be somebody who maybe not in your main circle, but you can support them also, because we're all just trying to make a living in this world and we all need the support, and hopefully we're just trying to bring the community together.
Money raised from this event will go towards building a pocket park by Joe Becker Stadium. Saturday, the Carl Junction Chamber of Commerce held its annual Expo Land. The Business Expo is an opportunity for area businesses and organizations to get out into the community and let people know about what they do. The event was for all ages and had activities for kids such as a balloon artist. One nonprofit aimed at promoting adult literacy was at the event to spread the importance of their mission.
We're just really excited as a chamber that we're able to finally, through the last year and being the shutdown, and I know it's so important to our businesses and organizations to really get their name out there. Over the past year, they haven't really got to do a lot of marketing, so this is our opportunity to sort of give back to the community.
Joplin NALA not only covers the Joplin area, but then also really just the Southwest Missouri area as well. So we're here in Carl Junction, again, just promoting the word, spreading the word, spreading the importance of adult literacy and trying to just be available and trying to be good resources.
The Chamber says the event gave businesses from all over the area, including Joplin, Neosho, and Carthage, a chance to come to Carl Junction and interact with parts of the community they normally would not. Well, yesterday was more than just Father's Day. It was also June 20th, or 620. So folks living in the 620 area code got together in Pittsburgh for the third annual 620 Day. Some of downtown Broadway was blocked off so folks could enjoy tasty treats, live music, local vendors, and even some cool activities like wall climbing. We ran into a sister who lives in Pittsburgh. She was showing her town to her little brother who lives in another state. She says 620 Day is the perfect day to show off the city she calls home.
So my brother lives in Iowa right now. He's just visiting for a couple of weeks, and so I just kind of wanted to show him what the Pittsburgh community was all about and why I've stuck around so long. So just showing him all the local places that I like to hang out and spend my money.
Peyton's little brother Mace says the wall climbing was his favorite 620 Day attraction. Well, this brings a new meaning to one man's trash is another man's treasure. A German man discovers these 17th century paintings in a rest stop dumpster. One of the paintings is of a boy by Dutch artist Samuel van Hoogstraten. The other is a smiling self-portrait of Italian artist Pietro Belliati, dating back to 1665. The man who found the paintings turned them over to police. Authorities have now launched a search for the owner of the artwork.
What in the world?
In a dumpster at a rest
At a
stop.
rest stop. I got a feeling that somebody had stolen those from someplace and they have been looking to get rid of them. I appreciate the gentleman identifying those as, probably valuable works and turning them over.
I wonder if the rest stop was the
drop point?
The drop point.
Not that I know phrases like that, Tanya.
Yeah.
I don't know why like
Thanks
that
for
would
putting
have
that
come
in
to
my mouth.
mind.
Yeah. Like that's where the trade
Tate's
was
over here
supposed to
behind
go
the camera.
down.
He's like, hey, Slip, what do you know about drop points?
Because the dumpster trash didn't get picked up until Monday, so the trade was supposed to go down Saturday night, but somebody else looked in there before.
Right. And I also know from Ozark that we don't use the same rest stop exit ever. Always find a different one. Why are you doing this? Oh, I thought I was like...
Right, along those lines.
Show you the ways of the world. All right, let's check out our thunderstorm activity. We've still got a good band of heavy rain that is now stretching from northeast Oklahoma up through Joplin and then into southwest Missouri along I-44. At one point in time, we had a little break right here, but now this heavy rain graduating from southwest to northeast right there has kind of connected all to each other. Let's go ahead and throw on the lightning tracker. Not too bad when we talk about the last 5 minutes, but if I were to rewind that and go 10 minutes, much more widespread. So lightning and heavy rain, those are our two main threats right now. After we see this little breakup here in southeast Kansas move out to the west and right along the Kansas-Oklahoma state line, there in between Independence, South Coffeyville, we're getting additional rain that's beginning to pick up. That's going to ride the county line. So I'll kind of head towards Chetopa, Baxter, Galena, etc. And that's why we got a couple more hours of it. This is the big one, though, that I want to pay attention to on I-44. So far, we have not had any watches, warnings, even advisories, so that's a good thing. But we're still talking about places that have picked up in excess of 1.5 inches of rain. So know that those low-lying areas are already going to be flooded. And look at how we've backed off our temperatures. My goodness, it's actually tolerable out there. So keep the umbrella, but enjoy very, very mild Monday morning temperatures as we'll kind of settle in the high 60s, low 70s this afternoon after the rain's gone. It's going to be a great afternoon.
All right, up next, a murder case comes to a close.
A Joplin man is sentenced to life in prison for the death of a Newton County woman in 2019. I'm Zach Dodge with how it feels for the victim's family to finally see justice served.
Why health officials say the Delta variant is contributing to a spike in COVID cases in Missouri. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. And we have some breaking news this morning out of Carterville, Missouri. Crews are battling a fire at a home on Elm Street. You're looking at a live image from this home on Elm Street. There's no word yet if there were any injuries. We'll have the latest as it becomes available. Hospitals in Missouri say they are overrun with new COVID-19 patients, and the bulk of them could have been avoided. Administrators and nurses say they're seeing 5 times more cases than last month. That's due to the Delta variant. Shoshana Stahl reports.
It is kind of like a horror story, living in a real life horror story or like in a war zone.
Cox Health currently has 79 people hospitalized with the coronavirus, which is 5 times more than a month ago. President Steve Edwards says 90% of the new infections are the Delta variant.
They're putting themselves in harm's way to protect people that could have protected themselves, because virtually every single patient in the hospital with COVID is not completely vaccinated.
Cox brought in more than 280 traveling nurses to help with the high caseloads last fall. But now, it's hard for the hospital to hire more, which is another reason the hospital may have to start turning people away, having to only rely on the nurses they have on staff.
We're already exhausted. We're already emotionally fatigued. We've already been through this again, and so now we're having to go through it again.
Mercy currently has 83 people hospitalized with COVID-19. President Craig McCoy says the hospital is committed to staying open and taking in any new patients.
We believe their best care is close to home, where you have access to your loved ones and to your other support network.
For the ICU nurses at Cox, this recent surge is already taking a toll on their mental health.
Just hearing those family members say, like, I'm sorry, or I love you, or whatever, knowing that they're never going to see them again. They're never, like, this is the end. It isn't easy. It's really hard on us.
Like, when is this ever going to end? When are we going to actually see the light at the end of the tunnel, or are we?
Well, Cox Health says if it does divert a patient to another hospital, it should only be temporary. A new study shows people infected with COVID-19 may experience some loss of gray matter in the brain. The study out of the UK indicates the areas of the brain affected are the ones that control smell and taste. That finding correlates with the most commonly reported symptoms of COVID-19, the loss of smell and taste. A relatively small study followed 782 people who had MRI scans 3 years apart, before and after the pandemic. While researchers believe the findings are compelling, they have not been authenticated by peer review. Well, a baby who was born so premature he was given a 0% chance of survival recently celebrated his first birthday. Richard Scott William Hutchinson was born 5 months prematurely, weighing in at less than a pound. At just 21 weeks gestation, the Guinness Book of World Records has recognized him as the world's most premature baby. Richard was so small his parents could hold him in the palm of their hand. Due to the pandemic, his parents, Rick and Beth, were unable to stay overnight with him at the hospital. Finally, after spending more than 6 months in the hospital, Richard was able to go home with his family just in time for Christmas.
That's tremendous right there, because we had the great fortune to have one of our own, who's now 18 years old, start off in a position similar to that, and we've watched him grow into a young man, a wonderful musician, and a real funny young man as well. What up, Gabe? You know I'm talking about you, my man. Live look outside of Television City. We're trying to get a little break in the cloud cover up there. I don't think the sun's going to be able to beat through before our next round rolls in. But we're trying a little bit there. As far as our weather almanac goes, we're actually down about more than 2.6 inches, not only for our monthly precipitation, but also our annual. But man, did we pick some of that back up this morning, as we've seen as 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches along that line of storms that stretch from I-44 in northeast Oklahoma up through southwest Missouri. And now we're starting to back build throughout southeast Kansas and get a little ready for round 2 for those of you in SEK who had a break. Temperatures have dropped from about 80 where we stood at midnight all the way down into the low to mid 60s. It's very, very comfortable after the thunderstorms roll in, but no, that low-lying areas are underwater. Speaking of extreme amounts of rain, Tropical Storm Claudette still spawning tropical storm warnings off the mid-Atlantic coast. It's going to take about another 2 days before their flooding threat is over. Our rain will be done late morning, around the noon hour, and then we actually get some afternoon sunshine and very mild temperatures for the next 2 days. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Well, yesterday was Father's Day, and some four-staters spent the day at a local farm to show thanks to their dads and father figures. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky spoke with these dads to see what they really wanted for Father's Day and how their families showed their appreciation for them.
Father's Day is meant to celebrate the fathers, grandfathers, and father figures in our lives and give them thanks for all that they do. In Stott City, one farm is giving back in the same way that they do for mothers.
Mothers and fathers are both equally important in children's lives, and so we wanted to say thank you by offering 50% off to all of our fathers and grandfathers and father figures who come to the farm today. And we also have some fun activities such as the monster truck, which is parked out front. The monster truck vendor who's here just to appeal to some of that gearhead nature that fathers tend to have, though not all fathers.
We spoke with one dad visiting the farm who says a simple thank you is all he needs.
My daughter made me a nice card this morning, had a little game involved with it, so that was fun. So yeah, it's a good day. Probably just acknowledgement of something that I did for them for that day works for me. Just to say thanks, that's all I need.
His daughter Hannah says she's using the day to let her dad know how much she appreciates him.
I appreciate how hardworking he is and that he'll always put me and my sister first no matter what we say or do. And it doesn't matter what he wants, he'll do anything for us. He's always been there for me, and I just want to make sure that he knows that I appreciate him.
Another local dad shared the same feeling.
Call, say Happy Father's Day. I've got everything. I mean, I don't need nothing. You know, I work all the time.
He says he and his own father are happy just to hear someone wish them a happy Father's Day.
I called my dad 7:30 this morning. He's up in nursing home in Harrisonville. And I called him, and he don't want nothing. All he wants is just somebody say hi, Happy Father's Day, and that's all I want.
In Stott City, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
Well, happy Father's Day. All fathers in attendance of the event received 50% off as a way to say thank you. Jiffy Lube in Joplin took time to honor dads as well by hosting a car show. Officials say it's the first time they've ever done anything like this. They invited car owners out to their shop on East 20th Street to have music competitions, chat about cars, and enjoy some good barbecue food.
We're a new location. We want to bring, a lot of positive light to our new location here. It's Father's Day. We wanted everybody to get together, be positive, and really be a part of the Joplin community.
Board says they're hopeful they can do more shows like this in the future. We'll be right back. It's time to honor today's four-state hero. Sergeant First Class Jerry Mason served in the United States Army from 1980 to 1998. He fought in Desert Storm, his hometown, Pittsburgh, Kansas. We are proud to salute Jerry Mason, our four-state hero. Well, the mother of a 2019 shooting victim says it feels good to finally see justice served. A judge over the weekend sentenced Ricky Lamb to life in prison with the possibility of parole for killing Sarah Tominski in 2019. Her mother spoke to KOAM's Zach Dodge a day after the sentencing.
Waves of emotions.
It's been really rough on the whole family.
And mixed feelings.
I think he deserved a bit more.
June 17th, 2019, Mary Jo Curtis's daughter, Sarah, was killed in Newton County, shot by her boyfriend's dad, Ricky Lamb. Curtis says everything that's happened since then seemed to take forever.
Sarah was gone in a second, and Mr. Lamb was able to drag things on for 2 years.
Newton County prosecuting attorney William Lynch came into office in February 2020. He says he hit the ground running, making this case a priority.
It was a priority for me to familiarize myself with the case and to make sure that I knew all the parties involved and made contact with the victims pretty early on.
He was pushing for first-degree murder with a life sentence. It wouldn't be until a year later that Lamb would plead guilty to second-degree murder.
We amended it down to murder in the second degree, given some factual issues that were in the case, and to get it pled with the certain outcome that he's convicted of murder.
Lamb was then sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole on June 17, 2021, exactly 2 years to the day after Sarah was killed.
When they told me that that was going to be the sentencing date, that was like surreal, because marks 2 years since he killed her, and 2 years since I last spoke to her.
Curtis says it doesn't feel like closure, but at least they can finally start moving forward.
I wouldn't call it easier, but it's one less thing I have to worry about or think about. Worrying, when is he going to get in trouble for this? When is he finally going to go to prison? It doesn't bring her back. It never will, but at least he got punished for it.
In Newton County, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
Curtis says last week she was awarded full custody of Tominski's daughters. Now they'll go back to Michigan so her granddaughters can start fresh. Well, another half hour of news and weather is just ahead. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, why fireworks will be harder to come by this Independence Day. And we introduce you to a pup who much needed a haircut. Well, it took to social media by storm. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:31. Let's take a look at today's top stories. We have some breaking news this morning out of Carterville, Missouri. Crews are battling a fire at a home on Elm Street, and this is live video from that house. You can see smoke coming from the roof there. Neighbors tell us they saw the fire go up around 5:45 this morning. There's no word yet on whether anyone was inside the house at the time of the fire, and we will have the latest as it becomes available. Wichita police officer is hospitalized in critical condition after being shot multiple times in South Wichita late Saturday. It happened in the 500 block of West Carlisle shortly after 10 p.m. Wichita police say officers were called to check the welfare of someone at a home in that area. 2 officers arrived at the scene, and someone in the home started firing shots at them. One of the officers was struck multiple times and was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Police say more officers showed up and more shots were fired. Suspect in the home was killed in the incident. No one else was hurt. The KBI was called in to assist in the case. Jasper County Sheriff's Office is asking for help after some ATM thefts or attempted thefts in the 4-state area. Sheriff's Office says the thefts seem to be happening between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. at banks with external ATMs. Usually the thieves steal a truck and use a chain to pull open the machines. You should call the Jasper County Sheriff's Office if you see anything suspicious near ATM machines. Plenty of people packed Miami's Riverview Park Pavilion on Saturday, all for the Miami NEOK Pride 2021 celebration. Organizers say they wanted to bring people together as a show of equality, tolerance, and love. The event featured tons of cool things to check out, including local vendor booths, drag pageants, live music, a DJ, and plenty of activities for the kids. Well, Saturday at the Empire Market, Joplin held their first ever regional Black Expo. The event was meant to highlight underutilized Black-owned businesses that do not necessarily get the heavy exposure that other businesses do. And it just happens to coordinate with Juneteenth as well. Event organizers say they hope this event will give more exposure to the 4-state African-American business community while bringing everyone closer together. Local law enforcement asked drivers to be patient with area farmers. Cherokee County Sheriff's Office took to Facebook. Officials are asking you to give them some extra room and be patient as they move machinery from one field to the next. Harvest time. Well, a tornadic storm touched down in Illinois on Sunday, damaging homes and causing injuries. 4 people were taken to area hospitals. Crews went door to door to make sure no one was trapped. About a dozen homes suffered damage from fallen trees. Officials in the area set up makeshift shelters for anyone who was displaced from their homes.
I know a lot of the national weather attention over the weekend was concentrated on the tropical storm, and rightfully so, because it spawned tornadoes through Alabama and Mississippi. But as you were saying, that one that touched down in Illinois on Sunday, they actually had an outbreak on Friday as well that hit Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. So they actually rolled about 6-7 tornadoes right there in a span of 48 hours over the weekend. We've got thunderstorm activity of our own here in the 4 states. We just got to cut out our little swath of America and decided we were going to make it for a wet, lightning-filled Monday. Those are the strikes that we've had just in the past 5 minutes, now dominating northwest Arkansas. But now, if we're about to talk about the strikes that we've seen in the last 10 to 15 minutes, much more widespread, that will include our band along I-44. Temperatures quickly decreasing after the storm moves through. Now, we have not had anything severe pop up, and we are the recipients of nice cool temperatures coming off of what we had that was so oppressive last week. These thunderstorms going to stick around till, say, about 11 to noon. After that, we may even get a little afternoon sunshine right there and actually have 3 consecutive days of much more manageable June-like temperatures. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. Our Instant Poll this morning deals with what's called the For the People Act, Voting Rights Act, once again becoming a hot topic of conversations in D.C. You have a large group of Republican senators voicing their disapproval of the For the People Act, which would automatically register eligible voters, offer same-day voter registration, require states to offer 15 days of early voting, and also allow no-excuse absentee balloting. Democrats need at least 60 votes for the measure to pass, and that could tee off a major debate about the future of a filibuster. Our question for you, simply put, is what do you think of the For the People Act? Right now, 76% of you say you oppose it. Of course, you can make your voice heard each and every morning by going to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Tanya?
We may just been another of the many animals in the U.S. who have been picked up as a stray. But how many of those animals become social media sensations? It's time to meet Simon. Emily Holwick has his story.
It's a video seen around the world.
And possibly one of the worst matted cases that we have ever seen.
This 11-year-old Shih Tzu was brought to Casey Pet Project after he was found wandering alone.
It's jaw-dropping to see a dog in that condition, and just automatically you start to think, where has this dog been?
The shelter posted this video on TikTok of the dog they named Simon getting his gnarled, matted hair shaved off, a process that took 2 hours.
And those mats, they can gather up, it pulls on the skin, it's really painful and uncomfortable.
Now he's a new man with newfound fame.
Overnight, we had millions and millions of views.
In a matter of days, the TikTok video has surpassed 35 million views and garnered media attention from across the country and overseas.
We did interviews with Germany yesterday, so he's getting a lot of international fame.
Simon isn't letting it go to his head.
Very quiet, will just sit in your lap and hang out for a long time.
There are plenty of people who want to take this superstar home.
We've had people say they're going to drive here from Canada to adopt him.
But shelter staff hope his popularity also brings people in to adopt or foster other pets as they face an influx.
Right now we're getting 50 new animals a day here at Casey Pet Project, and so fostering is critically needed.
Very notable with his tongue sticking out. Simon still needs some dental work before he eventually will become ready for adoption. We wish him the best. We'll be right back with details on Amazon Prime Day. Bargain hunters, this is your moment. Amazon's 48-hour Prime Day sale kicks off today for the next 2 days. Today and tomorrow, you can look for deals on fashion, toys, electronics, and much more. And you need to have Amazon Prime membership to participate. This year's Prime Day is earlier than usual. Amazon normally holds Prime Day later in the summer. But last year it was postponed until October in response to the pandemic. Labor shortages are among the reason American Airlines is being forced to cancel hundreds of flights through at least mid-July. The airline had 120 cancellations on Saturday alone and is projecting at least 50 to 80 flight cancellations a day going forward. The airline's Dallas-Fort Worth hub is most affected by the scheduling issues. American Airlines customers who have been booked through July 15th will be notified so they can make travel adjustments in advance. A new proposed House bill would give some continued assistance to those unemployed who find jobs. The proposal from 2 Democrats and 1 Republican would offer $180 a week in extra benefits. The figure is 60% of the recent $300 a week unemployment assistance, which is set to expire in early September. The bill is an incentive to have unemployed workers return to work and help employers urgently needing workers. Well, those 4th of July fireworks might be a bit harder to come by this year. Retailers say the industry is seeing a nationwide shortage amid supply chain issues and shipping delays. Matt Galka has that story from Arizona.
It's that time of year again, time to buy fireworks, and that usually means those pop-up tents on the side of the road. But there might be a lot less this year.
We're going to make the best of it, and we're going to have a big selection.
This red-hot fireworks tent would normally be open by now. The husband and wife retail fireworks team sells the legal stuff in Arizona, sparklers and pyrotechnics, but they're tough to come by right now.
Anything that's imported is struggling to get here. And this is an industry, retail fireworks, consumer fireworks, that is totally imported and handmade.
Supply shortages are hitting the entire industry, meaning some of their pop-up locations will have to fizzle out.
Normally run over 20 locations in the valley, around the valley, and I'm probably only going to run 10 this season because I don't have enough product.
On the professional side, business happens to be booming at Fireworks Productions of Arizona.
To compare and contrast this year versus last year, much better. We're much closer to our 2019 numbers, meaning that we will do 84 fireworks displays during the week of the 4th, with 48 displays actually on the 4th of July.
Since they had so few shows last year, they had product to carry over this year.
Our company has not suffered what everyone's calling the fireworks shortage at this point. Because we had less shows last year, obviously we had more inventory left over.
But if you're not going to look at one of the pro displays and you're trying to do something at home, retailers suggest buying early.
If you see a tent and we have product, it's time to shop.
Yes. Now, typically the people who are running these pop-up tents, they're from nonprofits or church groups, and they use them as fundraisers. So the less tents there are out there, the less funds there are to raise.
We'll be right back with more after this, but first let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell. It's time for What the Tech. One of the major items for the Biden-Putin summit was cybersecurity, and it appears there were no breakthroughs. The Russian president insists the U.S. is a greater cyber threat to the world than Russia. For his part, President Biden is warning of retaliation if Russia-based hacks continue. Hillary Vaughn tells us the ransomware threat is very real, and not just to big government and big business.
I traveled my home state of Kentucky recently and was asked more questions about cybersecurity in those 10 days or so than in the previous 10 years.
Cyberspace is dominating the headspace of small towns, schools, police departments, and local governments, scrambling to fend off a surge in sophisticated cyber attacks.
Even small town networks are attractive targets for these bad actors, and we can no longer rely on security through obscurity.
Over $50 million in ransom money has been paid to hackers this year, and the total amount paid by ransomware victims increased more than 300% in 2020. The ransoms are getting bigger, but the targets are getting smaller.
We came in after a weekend and found out that our data had been held for ransom, and everything that we had in our school district was kept from us.
Unlike corporations that can dip into pockets of profits, when local governments, schools, and police departments get hit, it comes out of taxpayers' pockets.
The average cost to taxpayers to clean up after a single cyber attack rose to the millions of dollars.
Today, a bipartisan group of senators is putting the Biden administration on notice to craft a clear U.S. military response to cyber attacks.
We have no policy in the United States of America as to what constitutes
an act of war on this country in the cyber domain.
Some Republicans want Biden to go on offense against Russian President Putin and his cyber cronies behind these attacks.
This is a cozy relationship that needs to come to an end. And I don't think they'll ever stop until we hit them back. We have a lot of offensive capability. We just choose not to use it, apparently.
Senator Graham tells me instead of handing over a list to Putin of 16 sectors that are off limits to cyber attacks, President Biden should have given a list of hacking organizations operating right under Putin's nose in Russia and told him that he is 100% responsible for any cyber attacks coming from his country.
An incredible story out of Greece. This is Alexandra Kyrilidou of Athens, the 21-year-old who is confined to a wheelchair, creates beautiful harp music with her eyes. Kyrilidou, who suffers from cerebral palsy and does not speak or have use of her hands, makes music using an iHarp gaze-controlled digital software, which lets people with disabilities play music. The digital eye tracking technology monitors eye movements to perform commands. The program was created by a computer scientist and musician who was inspired to make the software after a musician friend was injured in a motorcycle accident.
I would love to know who taught her.
That's really cool.
And maybe she's self-taught, I don't know.
I would find myself constantly getting distracted and
that is amazing. Yeah, I was thinking about that, the amount of concentration that would take.
Don't look away.
Not to break anything, not to break focus. That's great.
Neat.
Tanya, take a look at where the cold front is moving in on us, and that's a welcome relief coming off of what we had for most of last week, but of course, along with it, also means Monday morning thunderstorm activity. Now that heavy band that was right along I-44 is actually just taking a little southerly dip on the other side of the interstate. Rolling right now along northeast Oklahoma through Jay and then through McDonald County right on the Missouri Arkansas state line. Very heavy rain as well in northwest Arkansas. If you have to take I-49, be apprised of that. While we're beginning to break in the northern portions of both southwest Missouri and southeast Kansas, we still have more rain that's bubbling up out to the west and headed our way. Now, what we've got looking at for this morning, we've seen a dramatic decrease in lightning as far as what's left. But we also, too, know that we've picked up about an inch and a half of rain already, and so flooding is going to be our main concern. No longer lightning, really just flooding it at this point forward. Look at these temperatures. We were up to 80 around the midnight hour. Now we've been able to drop down into the mid-60s. It's very delightful if you haven't stepped outside as of yet. Reset the national picture and take a look at Tropical Storm Claudette, still hanging on to the Atlantic coast right there. Should be able to push off into the ocean by the time we get into tomorrow, but still tropical storm warnings abound up and down the eastern seaboard. Our weather trend will stabilize in the high 60s here later on. You even get a little peek of sunshine during the later afternoon hours. There's that next band that rolls through, and as it lessens and moves off to the east, we just have 3 consecutive days of very nice June temps before we warm back up into the high 80s and 90s for Thursday and Friday. We'll be back and wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Here's one last look at our breaking news out of Carterville, Missouri. Crews are still working the scene of a fire at a home on Elm Street. And this is live footage from that house. Neighbors tell us they saw the fire go up around 5:45 this morning. There's no word on whether anyone was actually inside the house at the time of the fire. And we'll have the latest today on the KOAM News at noon. Let's look at what's happening today. President Biden is back at the White House as the nation inches closer to his goal of having 70% of adults at least partially vaccinated by July 4th. The highly contagious Delta variant of the virus has now been identified in more than 40 states and could soon become America's dominant COVID threat. One man was killed, another seriously injured when a pickup truck crashed into marchers at a pride parade in Florida. The driver and the victims were all part of a gay men's chorus. Officials believe this was not intentional. Storm watches and warnings are up all along the Carolina coast as a deadly storm system heads northeast. Claudette is being blamed for several deaths, including 9 children in Alabama. 8 of the children, all from a youth ranch, were riding in a vehicle that crashed on Interstate 65 about an hour south of Montgomery. Let's check in with Michael with a final look at your forecast.
Here's where we stand right now. So we've got a couple more hours of thunderstorm activity. The lightning has greatly decreased. That's a good sign. And our temperatures, even when we get into this afternoon, going to be absolutely delightful. We'll go highs in the high 60s, low 70s. We get 3 consecutive days of great June weather before the heat kicks back in on Thursday.
All right, this is back from your deep tease on Friday, Michael. Daredevil Nick Wallenda walked a high wire last Thursday in Buffalo, New York. The stunt was part of a grand opening event for Deweyville College. The wire was 5 stories above the ground and more than 300 feet long. It stretched from the top of a library to the top of a building. College says Wallenda takes risks to push the limits of how far a person can go. And likewise, the health professions hub at Deweyville will push boundaries in health education and patient care.
The crazy thing about Nick Wallenda is he looks probably at 5 stories and goes, that's child's play.
Scary.
What an amazing family. Thank you so much for letting us put the good in your morning. Be back with more news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.
This cheesecake